This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Boring. 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 Boring.
You got it work. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what we're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Welcome to yet another edition of Lembit's OPIC Live here on Unprecedented TV. Big thank you to all of you. Numbers are going up for us, which is great. This was what's called a soft launch. No great whiz bang, just hard graft by me and the team. An increasing stable of presenters and hopefully a kind of refreshing freedom of speech that you don't get anywhere else. Although I have clearly expressed my views, I don't try to prevent other people from expressing theirs. That's the nature of free speech. And indeed, that's going to be the subject of the show today. Once again, to let you know, we've got Claire Dyer with Dire Consequences. She'll be back again next week. Christine Hart with Inside the Mind. That's Christine Joanna Hart, who has some remarkable insights into extreme human behavior, good, bad, and ugly. So we'll be back again. Basil Valentine will be doing his Basil Valentine show. There's a clue in the name. And Tim Scott with Uncancelled will be joining us too. And he is my co-conspirator in this episode as I ask a rather substantial question. And it's really one which I think has to be discussed on the basis of developments this week. Labour's Banter police is wrecking, in my view, Britain. And the reason I think we need to discuss that today is because Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, seems absolutely falling over herself to spy on you when you're talking off the record, casually, perhaps carelessly, to workmates or perhaps in the pub. Now, I'm going to ask Tim Scott to explain the full extent of what's being proposed, but it's truly gruesome, my friends. This is Orwellian thought police at its very worst. This is the exact opposite of what Britain is meant to be. By that, I mean we should be a free country where offence can be taken, but it can't really be given. At the end of the day, you can say anything you want about me. It's down to me whether I'm offended by it or not. But oh no, that's not the thinking of the current administration. They think that you have to be protected from hurty words by other people. But oh, the contradictions, and we're going to talk about those too. So the question I'm really asking today is, do you, like me, feel we're heading into a police state where you can be banged up for banter? Joining me now, as I say, is somebody who's no stranger to defending free speech. It's Tim Scott from the Freedom Association. Tim, thanks for joining us on this rather serious subject. Let's start by what the Freedom Association does, Tim.
Yeah, Lembit, great to be on. Thanks for having me on again. I mean, we're not above a bit of banter of our own, are we?
But, well, you say so. No, I'm through with banter. I'm not doing any more banter. No more banter for me.
Yeah, but it's all good. It's all good. It's all good, clean fun. But no, to answer your question, Lembit, the Freedom Association, in fact, we just had our 50th anniversary, 1975 to 2025. And in fact, last night we had a fantastic dinner down at Penshurst Place in Kent, beautiful place. We had about 80 people and John Redwood was our main speaker. And so what does the Freedom Association do? I basically run it. I'm executive director. So what does that mean? That means I do all the stuff nobody else wants to do. No, but we campaign, we lobby, we warn, and we have a set of 10 principles, which we've had for a long time: strong national defences, national parliamentary democracy, individual freedom, freedom of religion and belief, free speech and expression, and all that sort of good stuff. So yeah, that's what we do at the Freedom Association.
Okay, well then you're the right person to talk with me today about the problem in hand. let me set the scene. It seems to me that a country that used to tolerate divergent views, that used to support your right to say unpopular things, is now being governed by a Labour Party that wants you to stop saying what you think. They can't stop you thinking what you think, but they can stop you saying what you think. Now, this seems to me a horrendous danger. I'm not sure if you've been following the story. I'm sure you have been. But it seems that Angela Rayner wants to introduce something called, well, what many people call the banter police. Have you heard that phrase?
Yes, sadly, I have, Lembit. Yeah. I mean, it is very concerning. So this is the Employment Rights Bill, which is being co-sponsored through Parliament by Angela Rayner, our beloved Deputy Prime Minister, and Jonathan Reynolds, the Business Secretary. So there's a whole load of things in here, which is going to make it, I mean, on a more broad, just give it a bit of context. There's a lot of things in here. A lot of it doesn't come in until next year or even until 2027. And you've got things like full employment rights from day one, right to sue for unfair dismissal from day one, right to paternity and maternity leave from day one. I mean, this will worry a lot of employers. And I've always thought that the more workers' rights you have, the less workers you'll have, the more employment protection you have, the less employment you'll have. And with national insurance going up, and that hit for employers in so-called awful April, with lots of other things going up as well. Pubs are being hit, hospitality, it's more expensive to employ people. And this bill, Lembit, is going to make it more tricky, more difficult, more expensive to employ people again. So in the round,
but a lot of that is about bad employment law. But it's not about freedom of expression. But there's a whole part in this about freedom of expression as well. It's not just making it harder for employers to manage their businesses, in my opinion. Some people might love this, but I don't. It's also making it very hard for you to speak freely with other people. Yes.
Now, there's two provisions in it, which, I mean, it's still going through Parliament. So, you know, there's still time to feedback, lobby your MP, all that sort of good stuff. But there's two provisions in there. And that is, which some people may say, well, this sounds entirely reasonable. One is protection against sexual harassment at work. Well, nobody wants unwanted sexual attention or advances at work. The second is protection from harassment at work, including from third parties. And if there's a complaint, companies will have to show that they have taken all reasonable steps to get rid of this kind of thing. Now, the way that companies will have to show that they've taken all reasonable steps is they're going to have to start running all sorts of training courses about, you know, what you can say and what you're not allowed to say. So it is, Lembit, you're quite right, a threat. I think quite a serious threat to free speech.
Let's have a look what Lord Toby Young now has said. Indeed, he made his maiden speech in the House of Lords about this, and he comes from a fellow traveller organisation, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Free Speech Union.
Free Speech Union.
Yeah, this is what he said about it. Let's have a listen.
To this particular clause, I mean, they must have heard the arguments by now against it.
Yes.
To still go through with it seems like self-harm, as well as harming places like pubs and free speech.
Extending employer liability for the harassment of their employees by third parties. At the moment, they're only liable for the harassment of their employees by other employees, which is why you have all these kind of diversity courses and codes of conduct and policies in workplaces up and down the country. But extending it in this way to include members of the public, customers, that was originally part of the Equality Act, but it was repealed in 2013 when it was heavily criticised by employers. He said, how can we possibly be expected to police the conversations of members of the public? It's one thing to ask us to, police the conversations of our employees, to send them on training courses, to limit our liability by saying they have to comply with these workplace policies. But how can they do it when it comes to members of the public? So it was repealed in 2013, but this government is bringing it back. There was an attempt in a private member's bill to bring it back a couple of years ago, a bill called the Worker Protection Bill. But there was a rebellion in the House of Lords, and this clause, third-party harassment, was stripped out. But now it's come back again. It looks like there's a determined cabal, I think, of woke activists in Whitehall who are just determined to get this through. I'm not even sure Angela Rayner is aware that it's in the bill. The government's efforts to defend it have been incredibly feeble. I don't think they realise just quite how devastating an impact this will have on the hospitality sector and other sectors. I mean, imagine...
I mean, this is the thing. We'll go back to that in a minute. But you made the point about the hospitality sector. We'll go back. The next point that Lord Young makes in his speech is really relevant to what you've said.
Yeah.
But Lord Young's speaking very much the way that you are, Tim Scott, that it's terribly thought out. It was so bad, it was actually junked the last time it came through, Tim.
Yes, it was. And I'm afraid this is what we see with Labour, is none of them seem to have ever run a business or worked in business. And they have no idea what it's like to employ somebody on your own dime. MPs have staff, of course, but they're all paid for by the taxpayer. And the taxpayer picks up the liability. You're running a pub. Well, you've got to fund the staff out of what you make.
Well, let's listen to what he says next. Just a little bit more from Lord Young.
And if you're a sports fan, you're in a stadium, will you be able to say to a linesman who makes, in your view, a bad call, "Are you blind?" That might offend a partially sighted steward. A member of the club could take offence on the partially sighted steward's behalf and demand that you be banned from the stadium for that kind of outburst. So it doesn't just affect hospitality, it affects sports, it also affects higher education. I mean, one thing we've encountered at the Free Speech Union again and again is the kind of gold plating of the Equality Act. So activists say, you as an employer have a duty to protect your trans employees from being harassed by inviting visiting speakers like Helen Joyce and Kathleen Stock and Maya Forstater onto campus, because just their presence on campus will constitute harassment of your employees, and you have a duty to protect your employees from being harassed in this way. And we've often had to point out.
And that's the thing. He goes into a very eloquent explanation of that in the rest of his contribution there. But Lord Young is basically saying what you're saying, what I think too, that you get in this horrendously difficult situation where not only are people being banged up for free speech violations, but someone makes the arbitrary decision about what's acceptable and what's not, Tim.
Yes, that's correct, Lembit. I mean, it is a worry. And I think the worry here is that employers will, and staff, will increasingly get dragged into private conversations between people. Are we going to have a lot of he said, she said? I mean, Toby Young uses the example of a pub, and pubs are a very good example. Sadly, so many pubs are closing now, particularly with the national insurance levy coming down and all the rest of it, more expensive, more hassle to employ people. I mean, as I understand this bill, let's say you've got two guys at the bar having a conversation which, might be slightly uncomfortable. They might use some uncomplimentary language about people. And the person behind the bar, be they male or female, could overhear that conversation between two other people who are customers, not staff, not employees. As Toby Young quite rightly points out there, this is in the past has only applied to employees, but the employee will then be able to make a complaint, and the ball will be very heavily in the employer's court to show that they have taken all reasonable steps, I mean, whatever that means, to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen.
And what does that mean? Sorry, go on, Tim. Go on.
All reasonable steps. What does that mean? I mean, are they going to have to put signs up in the pub? Gentlemen, please mind your language.
But then that would be offensive.
Well, I know, because
Gentle people, surely.
Yeah, people. I mean, you're assuming it's men who are going to make the offensive remark, and I mean, often it is. Hands up. But yeah.
But often it's women too. Now, this is the problem. We've got Angela Rayner going round and round, apparently perfectly happy with all of this. This is one thing that one of the outlets said: woke banter police to spy on workers and report inappropriate conversations under Rayner's plans. Business may hire banter police, it says. Banter police in a bid to protect themselves from being taken to tribunals. Now, that's a horrendous concept. The idea that we can't even be in our workplace, or even more, be in the pub and talk freely, where incidentally people drink. Not everybody drinks alcohol, but people drink, and perhaps they're a little bit more relaxed. Perhaps they say things that they wouldn't say when they're sober.
Indeed.
That wouldn't be an excuse, would it, under this crazy restriction?
Well, alcohol loosens the tongue, shall we say. Yeah. And language can get a bit fruity. I mean, a lot of pubs employ a security guard on the door. Are they now going to have to employ one at the bar? To make sure that the bar staff don't overhear. And to re-emphasize, this isn't a customer swearing or being abusive towards the bar staff because maybe he took a little bit longer to get served than he might have liked. This is a private conversation between, this is what we're talking about. This isn't an actual case, but this is what I think we're worried is going to happen, Lembit, is a private conversation between two guys at the bar. And maybe they're referring to somebody in a rather complimentary way, or they might be relating, I don't know, a sexual escapade that one of them has had or something. And the member of the bar staff overhears a private conversation. I think, maybe if you're going to be in the pub and have these conversations and use these languages, maybe you're going to have to go and sit in the corner, not prop up the bar with them. But under these proposals, it does look like the offended or the member of staff who has taken offence, because I think you're right, Lembit, about offence. Let's have a society where offence is taken, not given.
Yeah,
that's a really important distinction.
Yeah, and to me, it's central. The fact is that people can take offence or give offence, and people. People can take offence, but it's very hard to say that they give offence. There's a classic example now here on our screen. Laurel Edwards, newly elected British Labour MP, wanted effing Estonian retards out of her flat. She said that. Now, that surely is an imprisonable sentence. Imprisonable. Or certainly a prosecutable sentence. If I chose to take it further, and I think I probably will take it further in order to point out the need for consistency. Yeah. Am I offended by it? What offends me about this is that it could be an incitement to action against Estonians. And I'm an Estonian by birth, by parental birth. So you've got this, which based on the conditions that you've just described, could get Lauren Edwards MP into very deep water. It's only because I haven't pressed charges against her, which I'm entitled to do under this new legislation. I would imagine, because I heard it, I've seen it, that she hasn't been put away, or at least prosecuted. What do you think?
Yeah. Yes, I mean, if you overheard that at the bar, if somebody had, if you were the bar staff, Lembit, and you overheard that, with your Estonian roots, your Estonian heritage, or even if you're not, you might say, well, that's calling people effing retards. Well, that's no way to speak. I don't like that kind of language. I'm going to kick up a fuss.
Yeah. And retards, what an interesting choice of word. If you change any of those insults into those which define the protected characteristics, then she's in deep trouble. And arguably it is. This is a sort of Damocles that hangs over her head. And frankly, the antics of her government will cause me to make a point of this. Let's remember, Lauren Edwards is a Labour Party MP, Labour MP that said this. Oh, she deeply regrets it. Really? That's what she said. There's no dispute about whether she did it. The question is, what should happen to her as a result? Now, in a free country where there's great tolerance, you might say that's a very dumb thing to do. Maybe she shouldn't be in Parliament with that kind of attitude. But it might be as far as it goes. But now, with the precedents being set under this, I'm just going to ask my team to leave that up a little bit longer. You can read the rest of it at your leisure, and you'll find it in EU Today, and I think the date's probably on that too. But under the current government, our current regime, Lauren Edwards, I suspect, would be toast. And they haven't thought about that consequence, have they, Tim?
No, she might well be, Lembit, and of course you could. I mean, I think you and I, we're not the sort of types to take offence, but you could choose if you wanted, Lembit, to be mightily offended, and to be really feel that that's an attack on you, and it's hate speech, and you're very upset, and all this kind of thing.
Imagine if you changed the word Estonian to Jewish or Muslim or Nigerian.
Oh dear!
What happens then?
Yes, I know. It's very worrying. I mean, I do worry where all this is going to end up. And who'd be an employer these days, Lembit? You're going to have to police all this kind of stuff.
You can't police it. It's not policeable, is it? It's not policeable. No. And here's another contradiction. Ricky Jones was his name, I think. Yeah. Ricky Jones was a Labour councillor, and he'd said something about slitting the throats of people he regarded as far right. Yes, that's him there. Trial of suspended Labour councillor Ricky Jones of a riots speech delayed until August this year. Now, this happened last year, in fact, over a year ago, compared to his trial. He actually said to an audience, as far as I remember, through a loudspeaker, it was televised, that people who he didn't like, they should have their throats slit, and that we should get rid of them.
Yeah.
There's no ambiguity in that. And he's been waiting for over a year to be tried. Now, you could argue that he's actually a clear and present potential threat to the people who he's inciting to be killed.
Well, yes, Lembit, I was going to say two things about that. Firstly, he was talking to a reasonably good-sized crowd. And he got a bit of a cheer when he said it, I seem to remember. I hope I've remembered that correctly. I just wonder, is he on remand? I mean, I'm just asking the question whether. I'm not.
He's walking about. He's walking about. I don't think he's. Yeah. I don't think he's locked up. I don't think so.
So he's not regarded as a danger to the public.
Well, let me put it a different way. He encouraged an audience to slit people's throats. Well, okay, that's a pretty heavy duty thing to say. And he was a Labour councillor.
Yes.
This is Labour. This is the same party that wants to cause you trouble with the banter police in a pub. Yes. How on earth can they think this is in any way consistent, Tim?
Yes. No, you're quite right. And they have been hoisted with their own petard, Lembit. So this is worrying stuff. I really think this is going to, along with everything else that we've discussed, the changes in national insurance, all the other stuff coming in, being able to sue for wrongful dismissal from day one. At 9:05 on your first day at work, you'll be able to sue for you'll be able to, and your employer will have to go to a tribunal and goodness knows what else. They may even decide to pay you off. I've heard of that before, because employers just don't have the time to deal with the hassle. It's sometimes easier just to say, oh, here's, you just agree out of court. Here's 100 or here's a few thousand. Just, go away. That's the polite version. Just go away money, because I'm an employer. I've got a business. I've got 20 staff. I mean, these things also, and this I think also applies to this banter police thing that we're talking about, Lembit. It's much easier for larger companies. I mean, the last company I worked for had 500 staff. It was making money. The company had an in-house lawyer. It had a 4 or 5 strong HR department. I mean, one disgruntled employee shouldn't be that difficult to deal with. But if instead of having 400 or 500 staff, you've only got 4 or 5 staff, and you are the company lawyer, you are the HR department, and stick a broom up each trouser leg, you're also the cleaner. This is where I think it's really going to bite. It will be smaller companies, many of which are run by women, where this the whole picture here. And I'm not saying that there will be there'll be massive overnight redundancies, but what I think will happen is this will be part of a trend, Lembit, where companies that they were going to take on 10 staff, they'll now only take on 7, or somebody leaves and they're not replaced. I think that's the kind of thing that we're going to see as a result of all of this, Lembit.
And as we see this terrible developing story, I have to say that what bothers me the most is that we're almost sleepwalking into it, because unless you see the full implications, as we're trying to say now, the whole thing just could be a train wreck, where once people realize what's going on, the damage has been done. And there are thousands of cases of people being prosecuted. Companies have been taken to the cleaners. I understand your point about employment law, but I'm thinking about all the offence which will be taken all over the country, where 2 people might offend each other and snitch on each other because they have different views.
Yeah, I think the taking of offence is being increasingly weaponized, and it's being used against people. Somebody you don't like, you don't agree with, suddenly you're ever so offended, and that's turned back and used against them. Now, yes, of course we should try and be polite and kind in as much as that we can, but there are institutions in Britain that need criticism. There are religions. No religion should be free of criticism and questioning. No religious figure or institution, no philosophy or view of life should be free of questioning. But I think increasingly in Britain today, we're seeing the weaponization of offence, basically to shut people up.
And let's look at another classic case, a terrible case of it. Now, we looked at Ricky Jones wandering about. He's literally saying, let's slit their throats. I don't know how he's going to defend that. We're interested to see what his defense is. This is Lucy Connolly.
Yeah.
Jailed for race hate post on X. And she recently lost her appeal. What was that appeal? Well, as it says there, I mean, it's pretty clear in the item there. Can we just get the banner off for a minute so we can actually read the whole thing? Just remove the banner if you could. Yeah, thank you very much. Lucy Connolly called for mass deportation at hotels, housing migrants to be set on fire in a social media account. Now, it's a pretty dumb thing to do. It's a pretty dumb thing to do, I suppose. She took it down after over 300,000 people had seen it. But it's only quantitative difference between what she did and what Ricky Jones did. They'll be willing to bet a comparable number of people have heard of both cases because they've both been in the media. So here's a woman who was basically being banged up very, very quickly for what she said. Do you see that inconsistency between what's happened to Ricky Jones, for example, and Lucy Connolly?
Yes, I do. I mean, I'll be limited in what I say about this because it's currently in court. But there's the Manchester Airport incident. That took a long time to come, a suspiciously long time to come to court. I won't say any more because that's currently in court as we speak. Now, this case here, Lucy Connolly. Now, she shouldn't have said what she said. It was the wrong thing. She did the wrong thing. And you could see it as encouraging violence, but she posted in anger. I mean, not that that's a big excuse, but she posted also in horror at the brutal murder of 3 girls when she had lost a child of her own. She had lost a young child of her own, so yes, Lembit, very, very interesting. 31 months for her. Let's see whether she gets let out early under Labour's programme to clear up space in our jails.
No, I'm not really holding my breath on that one. And that's the problem. That's the fundamental problem. I want to finish with one other area. We're almost out of time, actually. But I want to finish on another great hypocrisy.
Mm.
The woman who seems to be most closely associated with this in the cabinet, that's Angela Rayner, is not exactly a stranger to hurty words herself. Look at this. Watch this.
We cannot get any worse than a bunch of scum, homophobic, racist, misogynist, absolute pile of banana republic, Etonian piece of scum. Is that the kind of civility that the Starmer-Rayner Labour Party envisages?
Well, look, that was post-watershed, as we'd say, with a group of activists at an event last night. And what I was trying to get across, and this is and it is my passionate way in which I do it, is the anger and frustration that people feel when you have a Prime Minister who has said things and not apologised for them that are racist, that are misogynistic, that are homophobic, that has given billions of pounds of taxpayers' money to their mates and literally wasted that money at a time when they're cutting universal credit, plunging families into crisis and the cost of living is going up. Then my passion was about, look, we can't sit on the sidelines here. We have to get organised. And I was speaking to a group of activists to say, you've got to get that fire in your belly. That we've had other cabinet members that have said appalling things.
Okay,
I think this government...
We're being quite specific about who the scum are, or do you want to give me a list of names?
Well, I think anyone who leaves children hungry during a pandemic and can give billions of pounds to their mates on WhatsApp, I think that was pretty scummy. Now, that is a phrase, and let me contextualise it, it's a phrase that you would hear very often in northern working class towns, that we'd even say it jovially to other people. You know, we say it's a scummy thing to do. And that, to me, is my street language, as you would say, about actually it's pretty appalling that people think that's OK to do.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Apparently, she can say it because she's smirking, because that's the kind of thing you say up there. Where I live, if you call someone scum, it's a tremendous insult. So how can this person, with any straight face, without an ounce of shame, now introduce the banter police when she herself, in the workplace, because that's her employment, say things like that? Oh, because it's after the watershed. So that means after 9 o'clock in the evening, you can say what you like in a pub. Is that what she's saying?
You can call. Oh, it's 1 minute past 9. I can go around calling everybody scum, whereas I couldn't at 8:59. I think, Lembit, that interview there with Trevor Phillips, I think, was at the Labour Party conference 2 years ago. So they were in opposition then. But it's interesting how she defends herself. I mean, firstly, it's just me being passionate, you know. When she uses derogatory and offensive language, it's just, you're just being passionate, and then she pleads, well, you know, I'm from, and to be fair to Angela Rayner, she you know, she did come up the hard way. She didn't have, you know, many of the advantages in life that others, like my good self, I'd put myself in that category, have had. She pleads sort of, I'm working class and from the north, you know, and she says, well, I'm just trying to get the troops fired up. Well, I'd rather not be fired up in such a fashion, Lembit, you know. But yes, you're right to point out the irony of that she is now proposing this legislation.
Total hypocrisy. It's total hypocrisy in my view. I mean, what she seems to be saying is that she can say these things, but the rest of us can't. You know, it's okay for her to say, because to contextualize it. Yes. Okay, so if I say to contextualize what I said in the pub, which offended somebody else, then it's all right. It actually is breathtaking. It was some years ago she said it, but that is not an excuse for the hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy. I actually wouldn't stop her from saying it, but woe betide this government and her and Lauren Edwards, that Labour MP who's incredibly offensive about my ethnic roots, or people from ethnic roots, if they actually try to push this through. But the thing is, Tim, they will try and push this through. I wonder, last word to you on this, Tim, where does this leave the United Kingdom?
Worried. I think it's we've got a government that's cavalier about free speech, We had the Free Speech Universities Bill, which had gone through Parliament, and they didn't want to implement it. They had to be threatened with judicial review to do it. So where does it leave us? Worried, Lembit. That's where it leaves us.
Is there hope?
Yeah, I think there is. Yes, people have got to be aware of what's going on and campaign and push back.
Well, that's what the Freedom Association is all about. Thanks so much for joining me. Fascinating to hear your views on this. And with that, I'll leave you with a concluding thought of my own. I got involved in politics because of my concerns about libertarianism and the fact that I just didn't feel that, in fact, the country was being well served. And that was 40 years ago in terms of freedom. I would pretty much let people do whatever they want as long as they don't cause actual harm to people, including allowing them to be offensive. If you look at social networks, that's how social networks often work. It's not how I would tend to behave on them, but it's how others do. The rough and tumble of the way people think and the imperfect humanity that we're part of. But I draw the line when you start putting people in prison for the offence of causing offence, because who makes that decision? Angela Rayner, after what she said about the Conservatives. Councillor Ricky Jones and the Labour Party he was in when he encouraged or said that people should have their throats slit. Lauren Edwards, who called my country folk, using a profane name, retards. Well, I don't think they're really in a position to preach. Have your say. Go to X. I'd love to know what you think. You maybe disagree. Well, I'd like to know those views as well. You'll be glad to know there'll be a lot more from Tim Scott. Tim Scott, Uncancelled, will be starting a regular show pretty soon. In the meantime, I hope you found that interesting. Maybe you learned something, maybe you didn't. But teach me if you have a different view. I'm Lembit Opik. A big thank you to the team, by the way. More than anything, a big thank you to you for showing faith in our efforts to give you free speech back. Have a good
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Boring. 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 Boring.
You got it work. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages,